Hello, and welcome to the fourth part in our series of videos that we're talking about the 23 steps that we think we need to do before we move back to the UK in just 6 months' time.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you have only just joined us at this juncture, we already have 3 episodes before this where we've talked about items 1 all the way through to 8. So in this fourth video in the series, we are going to be talking through things 9 to 15. So we're going to cover quite a bit of material in this video clip.
So
Please make sure if you haven't seen the first 3 episodes that you look down in our description, and we will leave links for you to go there first.
Okay, buckle up. We've got a lot to cover in this one.
Hi, I'm Susie.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Welcome to Here and There with Him and Her, continuing to talk about all things related to our transatlantic journeys.
So this is the fourth in our series of the 23 things that we think we need to do before we leave in just a few months' time.
Number 9 on the list is to figure out what to do with all the stuff that we have accumulated in the past 15 years. So when we moved over here back in 2010, we came with 4 suitcases. And obviously we have a lot more than 4 suitcases now, don't we?
Yeah, we've managed to acquire some stuff over the last 15 years or so. We came to a decision pretty early on in our planning that there was no point in taking our furniture back. US furniture has a tendency to be a bit bigger than UK house sizes, certainly the UK house sizes we can afford.
Yes.
So there didn't seem much point in that. We wouldn't have room. Plus, shipping things is very expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, and shipping would take time as well, and you kind of need to sit on stuff and sleep in stuff.
Now, if you're one of those people that came here with a load of stuff, undoubtedly you're going to go back with a load of stuff as well, I guess. In the expat community notice boards we read, there are a lot of people that rent containers or parts, corners of containers. They group together when they know that a group of people are moving, and they'll rent parts of a shipping container. But quite frankly, apart from very sentimental objects, everything else is pretty much disposable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
I grew up in the world of traveling a lot, my dad's job, but they paid for us to ship everything.
Yeah.
So
that's nice of the government to do that, wasn't it?
It was. So, so therefore we really don't have the funds to do that. So I would say that majority of our things are going to have to either be sold, donated, or just thrown out, binned completely. And we are probably going to have to do follow-up videos to tell you how we're getting on with that.
Well, that process has already begun.
It has.
But obviously, as we count down to our departure, the pace of that's going to step up considerably, I would guess.
Unless you have other suggestions, I'm going to be putting in a little link in the comments below, because I have been putting together checklists. I'm a bit of a list person.
She likes the plan
of all of this stuff, and I figured that if it was helpful for us, it might be helpful for other people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be creating some checklists for other people. So if you're interested, please drop me a line in a comment if that's something that you think would be helpful for you. I'd be happy to help.
Our 10th thing on our list of things to think about when you're moving from one country to another is something that's so obvious, but we for various reasons we have to really state it, and that is to give notice to your employer that you're leaving. This, I think, in the US, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, especially where we are in North Carolina, because it's what is known as a right to work state, which means that you can quit anytime you want to, or you could be fired anytime you want. Your employer wants to, and you don't really face any consequences. So we've had to be very careful in the way that we approach it. Secondly, of course, because we're in the US, our health insurance comes from our employer. So if we were to quit immediately, our health coverage would quit as well. And when we're still 5 to 6 months out, isn't it? 5 to 6 months out, anything could go wrong in that time, and we wouldn't have coverage. So it's a bit different for us as teachers, I
I would say,
suppose.
yeah. And again, this is specific, like you're saying, to us,
Mm.
because in the world of teaching, we really don't want to just leave our school or our teacher,
Or our
our fellow
students.
teachers or our students in the lurch, really. We know it's not easy to find other teachers. This is a kind of historic year for teacher shortages, I think, in most states, especially here in North Carolina. So we don't really want to leave and make it harder for the remaining teachers, or if a sub had to come in.
Yeah.
Also, I know we kind of just would feel wrong leaving the students we're currently teaching halfway through or three quarters, and not seeing it through to the end of a school year. So that really helped us anyway, for in our situation, to even figure out when we wanted to go back to the UK, because we just kind of had the parameters of a natural school year anyway. And that kind of worked out nicely for us, because, as you know, in teaching, you get the summer months. So we had a little bit of leeway where we knew we would still be getting a bit of a salary without having to be in work, to give us that extra jumping off point for our move back. I would say, though, if, as Paul mentioned, if your health insurance is tied to your work, which in most cases it probably is, really make sure you understand fully, when you hand in your notice, when does your health insurance end? That's something that we really had to research.
And there are variances depending on which employer you have.
Yes. Because you don't want to find out after the fact that actually you gave notice at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And we know that there's this thing called COBRA, where you can pay to have an extension of your health benefits at the same rate that you had at your workplace. But we've had nightmares about that.
Yeah, people said it's difficult to obtain, and it's also expensive for what it is.
Difficult to get rid of. It seems that
was the thing.
People have told us, a good friend told us that they kept trying to cancel it, and they just wouldn't take her word for it, and they just kept charging her. So it's something that we didn't really want to have to try and untangle once we were out of the country.
Yeah. So the 11th thing on our list would be to arranging a real estate agent to help sell our house. This was a new thing for us. Estate agents in the UK are not as proactive as the our real estate agents are here in the US. Sorry, the cat's at my foot and he's crying, so I need to tickle him. So the problem that we're faced with is making sure that all things converge at the right time.
Yeah, this is something that keeps me up at night, because we need to find the perfect sort of timing to make sure that we have the time in the house. Well, the house is sold, but yet we have somewhere for us to stay, for the cat to be picked up from here, because there's no point in us going into a hotel with a cat.
No.
Again,
see earlier comments.
And then we also need to have the house cleared enough, knowing that it is sold and other people are coming into it, but yet we still need to have a bed to sleep in and a sofa to sit on, or a chair or something to sit on. So it's kind of been worrying a lot in my mind. And fortunately for us, we have a really good agent anyway, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And so we just bombarded her with questions. And the first option we were asking about was, could we just move and leave the house to sell once we were back in the UK? But...
well, that would mean that our house sale will be subject to UK capital gains tax. And we'd rather not.
We'd rather not give our money away to somebody else, no?
So...
and also the paperwork, wasn't it?
Yes, and of course, if the house was sold whilst we were in the UK, to be legally recognised in the sale, it would mean that we would have to go down to the US Embassy in London and fill in the paperwork there with no guarantees.
Yeah, sign a closing document with no lawyer present.
Yeah.
So if there's anything legal in there that we didn't understand, we weren't going to be looked after.
Yeah.
So then the next thought was, well, could one of us go over to the UK? And then the cat could be sent over to that person, and the other person stay and just do all of the paperwork. Well, North Carolina won't let us do that because if both, well, just legally, if you are in a couple in a in the property, both names are legally put onto a deed, and so both people need to therefore sign those closing
Present at the
documents,
same.
and you have to be present at the sale. So that was kind of pushed aside as well. So it seems that our best bet is to try and sell the house, but have in there the agreement that we can stay on for X number of days, kind of, rent it back from the people we're selling it to. Either that or use one of these other services.
Yeah, there are other agents that will buy your house and then let you live there until you're ready to move.
Yeah,
but I think there are premiums for that, aren't there?
so we're talking about like offer pad or
open door,
or other things
Yeah.
like that. If you know of anything that we haven't thought of that might be able to help us in this situation, we are more than happy to hear from you.
Really happy to hear from
because
you.
this is one area that we haven't heard much about, because a lot of people may not be in our situation where they could vacate the house and rent somewhere or go to an Airbnb. Like I said, we're in a special case where we don't really, with our cat, that's not an option for us. So please let us know if you think of anything else that we haven't thought of. Number 12 on our list is we have to sell our car.
This is a pretty straightforward one, really. And again, it's down to, like the previous ones we just mentioned, it's down to timings. As we'll need a rental car for a couple of days before we fly. And of course, that would lead us to our next.
Well, we'd want
slide.
to keep that down to a minimum cost-wise. If the shorter amount we can rent on this side, would save us money because of going into our next one, as you said.
Yeah. Our 13th, 13th thing would be to book a car rental on the opposite side when we arrive in the UK. We know we need to rent a car when we get there initially, before we can look to buy one. So something to take us from the airport to the Airbnb. We've singled that down now. We've actually decided what type of vehicle we want to get.
Yes.
Even to the point where we measured out our current vehicle, how many suitcases would fit in that, and we found the UK equivalent on a car rental site. And
but we were laughing about that, but actually it was an important exercise to carry out, wasn't it?
I was quite impressed with myself, actually, and everything fit in there. So we know how much we're going to have to spend on a car rental now at the other end. But hopefully, because of the savings that we've allotted to getting into the UK, we'll be able to buy a car pretty soon, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's our hope. I mean, initially we'll probably rent the car for 2 weeks with the hope that we won't need it for the entire amount of time.
I was going to say that we were initially thinking of leasing a vehicle, but obviously leasing is very much tied to your credit rating.
Yes.
And as we'll have no credit rating in the UK, it's something that we're going to have to look at in a couple of years' time, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just make sure, as we say, that if you're thinking of moving, that if you're going to rent a car, make sure you think about how many suitcases need to fit in that car, as well as people.
At both ends. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're lucky. There's only the two of us. And that meant we could fill the rest of a small SUV with the 4 suitcases and 2 carry-ons and other bits and bobs. But if you're a family of 4 and you have suitcases, then you've really got to consider something bigger, or ship your stuff in advance.
I will also say that this kind of feeds back to an earlier number about how, getting rid of our stuff. Understanding how many suitcases we can fit in the car also helped us realize how many suitcases we can take on the plane when we're flying back, because initially we were going to do 3 suitcases each, 3 check-in suitcases each, and then we realized that with also a carry-on suitcase, that would mean each of us would have to try and wrangle 4 suitcases in the airport each, and that just wasn't going to work. So considerations that maybe you're not thinking of.
And also, reaching back to an earlier one, if it's within your budget to fly up the pointy end of the plane, you do get a better baggage allowance, don't you?
Right, you don't necessarily have to pay for the extra bags.
Yeah.
Actually, I will just say, in case you were wondering about the cat in this situation, is if you recall from our first point, we went for the higher end of our service, which means actually they're going to deliver the cat to us, so we don't have to accommodate.
We're not strapping him to the to the roof rack.
we didn't forget about him. He's actually going to be delivered to us.
Yeah. The 14th thing we need to consider before we move, and it might not be applicable to you, but we thought we'd throw this in there anyway, is renewing your US driver's license. In my particular circumstance, mine's got a further time to run than yours, but they're such a vital part of ID in the US. It would be important for you to keep it established for if you're having transactions with your bank or something as a form of ID back in the USA. So make sure you can get them extended as far as you possibly can, I would say.
Yeah, we don't know. We haven't tried this yet. It's just an idea that we're hoping that we can try and just go online and try and extend it. Yeah. And this sort of nicely funnels into the next consideration, which is number 15, I believe, 15, on our list. Yeah. And that is renewing of passports. As I mentioned in
somewhere down there.
Somewhere earlier, we are now both dual nationals, which means we both hold 2 passports. And as much as it's become easier to renew a foreign passport in the United States or vice versa, it is always going to be easier to renew it in the country of origin. I think both of us are fine on our British passport front.
Yeah.
And Paul, as I mentioned, got naturalised.
Naturalised. Thank you. Be careful how you say that. Nationalised. Yeah. They bought me. Everybody in the US owns me now.
He became a US citizen.
That's the one.
A couple of years ago. So your passport is pretty spanking new anyway.
Yeah.
But mine is going to run out within a year of us returning back to the UK. And so you can renew your passport, your US passport, anytime you want to, but they actually do recommend that you renew anyway within a year of it expiring. So it's just going to be easier for me because now they're 10-year passports. So if I renew it now in 2025, it'll be, that'll keep us going for a while so we can keep coming backwards and forwards to the UK and the US quite seamlessly, really. So that was our 4th video in this series. We've only got 1 to go. Some of you may have noticed that in the videos themselves, we've been saying 21 things that we had to get done, and yet we are introducing them as 23 things. And that's because I forgot to put some on the list. And so really, we're going to talk about them in the other 2 as like bonus ones, really.
Yeah.
In the last of our series, in the 5th one, next one.
So please don't think we're losing our minds.
Yeah, we're not going crackers.
I know we're panicking about our move, but, you know, we're not in that state.
So again, make sure that you give us a nice thumbs up.
Indeed.
I would love to hear from you in our comment section. Again, anything that we discuss will always be linked in the description below, as well as the previous videos and the next one for you to be watching. So we'll see you in the last of our series.
Yeah, looks like it's time for another brew and another biscuit. Take care, and we'll see you soon.